Um, I am so excited to welcome Dawn Franceschini as our guest in our Welcome Wellness Forum. Trina and I had been talking for a while about sort of bringing in people who who were involved in wellness from a wide variety of backgrounds. And one of the very first people I thought of was my amazing reflexologist, Dawn Franceschini. And I just want to give a little testimonial before she gets started and tells you all about what reflexology is and what she does. And say that I've been going to Dawn for a while now, not since COVID, unfortunately, but before that. And she is absolutely incredible. I was dealing with some hip issues where I was having a lot of pain in my hips, and that totally resolved while I was meeting with Dawn. And I would get up off the table and feel 100% better. And it took a few times before that completely went away, but whatever magic she works with her healing, she is an absolute wonder. So I am thrilled to have her tonight to talk a little bit more about reflexology. She is also a registered nurse and a master Reiki teacher and an Aromatouch therapist. So welcome, Dawn. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Beth. Thanks for inviting me. It's a privilege to speak with you and to your group. It's exciting to sort of spread the word about reflexology and how it affects health and how it can support health. Before we do that, I do want to say that reflexology is a complementary therapy. And as such, reflexologists don't diagnose or prescribe or do any of that sort of thing. But what we do is meet with clients and meet them where they're at with their body issues, their health issues. Because I'm a registered nurse, I can go a few steps further and speak with clients about any particular health or wellness issues they have. If they need to learn more about the medications they're on, if they want to know. For instance, some people just want me to check their blood pressure when they come in, and I'm happy to do that. So for me, I use all of those modalities and sort of just really tailor treatments to each specific client. So I have a question for you and for the audience, and they can just sort of mull it over, and you can mull it over. And that is, what condition or conditions do you think are pervasive in our modern society?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think there's a ton of issues that are pervasive in our modern society. I think stress is probably one of the biggest ones. I think that causes a lot of problems. I'm actually going to monitor our feed in Welcome Wellness and see if anybody else answers while you're talking, so I can give you other people's answers as well. But that's a big one. I think stress, and I know a few times you've said to me when I've gotten off your table, your adrenals seemed a little out of whack today. So I would say it's definitely true for me as well.
And we're getting a little ahead, but the adrenal glands are those fight or flight glands. And when somebody is really very stressed out or very anxious, because that's the other thing that's pervasive in our society today, the adrenals become, at least to my feel, firm, hardened, because when we pass our hands over the foot of a client, things should not be firm and hard and crunchy and crackly and so on. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty easy to pick up in the adrenals. Mm-hmm. I want to just give a brief history of reflexology, very, very quick. But prior to that, I do want to say that the stress and anxiety that exists in society today has been compounded by the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
Significantly.
Absolutely.
For everyone, for a number of reasons. Whether you're a parent trying to homeschool your kids, whether you're trying to stay in work, whether you have been furloughed and you're not making enough money to make ends meet, all kinds of things have impacted people where they're at now. So it's just added on to everything that normally goes on in life.
Yeah.
So reflexology has been around since about 2500 BC. And there are hieroglyphic drawings in caves that demonstrate reflexology being done.
Mm.
Different forms of working on the feet have been, throughout cultures from time to time. But it's been around in the world for a long time. And I don't know when it actually got called reflexology, but the practice has been there for a long time.
Amazing.
If we can think back to, those of us that are acquainted with our great grandparents, our great grandmothers, what did they do with babies when babies got cranky? They sat them on their lap, pat their back, and rub their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Really knowing
Right.
what they were doing and why they were doing it, but it helped.
Fascinating.
Let's call it babies.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did have some other answers, Dawn, so I'm just going to read them to you so that you know what our audience is responding. We had stress and anxiety, high blood pressure anxiety, acid reflux, thyroid issues,
Yep.
stress, weight, hormone issues, people not taking time to address issues their body is telling them to take care of,
Yes.
PTSD.
Mm-hmm. All of those things are so true. And a lot of those diagnoses can be compounded by stress reactions in the body that we'll talk about in a little while. So if you already have a condition, it can become much worse depending on your level of stress, how you perceive the stress, and how you handle the stress.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to give a quick definition of reflexology from the Reflexology Association of America. And it's defined as reflexology, an integrative health practice, maps a reflection of the body predominantly on the feet, hands, and outer ears. It uses unique manual techniques to deliver pressure to neural pathways, assisting the body to function optimally. So what all that says is, now there's foot reflexologist, hand reflexologist, face reflexologist, ear reflexologist. We all have to be certified in whichever area we're practicing in.
Mm-hmm.
But what that says is that when we touch any of these body parts in certain ways, we're putting our thumbs, hands, and pressure on neural pathways, nerve endings.
Mm-hmm.
And those nerve endings reflect back to every body system and every gland in the body. And so that has a really interesting effect, because if something is not functioning optimally, and we give it a little goose, shall we say, by just sort of massaging that area or holding pressure on an area, it can say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should be doing X, Y, Z. I'm sort of a little out of sync now. So that's kind of how, in a very simplistic nutshell, it works. So reflexology can be done on anyone at any time. It's sort of, it's not a pun, but it's a cradle to grave kind of service. As we spoke about, babies benefit from reflexology, the whole walk of life, and at the end of life, those people who have chronic diseases, perhaps have cancer or have other conditions that just don't allow them to function, benefit hugely from reflexology, with stress relief being a big one, and then those neural pathways linking back to whatever their particular issue is, to just give them a little bit of a break and a little bit of a cool down, shall we say. It can be done literally anywhere where you have a reflexologist and a couple of feet, or hands, or ears, whichever way that goes. So the reason people get reflexology, the whys of it, are a lot of different reasons. Health maintenance. Somebody can come to me perfectly healthy, no issues whatsoever. They just want to have reflexology because they know they're going to feel better. Improvement in health conditions, not cures, but improvement.
Right.
Reflexology, there's been research that's done that indicates and shows clearly that it helps lower blood pressure. Relaxation, stress relief, improved sleep quality, I have a client who sleeps very, very poorly. And unfortunately, she lives half of a country away, but when I do see her and I give her a session, she sleeps like a baby for the next week or so. And then it's back to the usual. Reflexology can help eliminate cellular waste. When our bodies are functioning, our cells are doing their thing and they're taking in nutrients and they're giving off those things that no longer serve them. And so by using reflexology, the waste can be removed. Stimulates the central nervous system, increases metabolism, and much more. So we talked a little bit about how it works. Do you know that there are 7,000 nerve endings in the bottom of your feet?
That's incredible. I've heard you mention that before, and it is absolutely astounding.
Yeah. And when you think about all the little nooks and crannies in the body, it makes perfect sense. Who would guess? But you know, that's one of the reasons that when you stub your toe or you step on something or you hurt your feet, it's incredibly painful.
Legos. As a mom, stepping on Legos is the most painful thing in the world.
So thinking about those nerve endings, they then form complex neural pathways back to the organs and systems that they're related to. And when you, we call it reflex it, touch it, put pressure on it, whatever. When you reflex them, they respond to that stimulus. And that stimulus goes back to your eye, your ear, your brain, your throat, your heart, your liver, your kidneys. And so, as I said, there's specific points for every single organ and system. Now, if we want to think about our bodies in a way that we probably never think about them, our bodies are made up of three things: energy, tubes, and water.
Yeah.
Real simple. You know, and it's amazing how we all look and act and think and feel so differently, but we have the very same makeup.
Right.
And when we talk about energy in the body, some people are surprised that energy flows continuously throughout the body. But think about this. EKGs. What are we measuring when we do an EKG? We're measuring the electrical impulses that come to the surface of the skin across the chest.
Right.
Put electrodes on a patient, and then we see a write-out on a piece of paper which shows the electricity that is flowing through the heart at that point in time. And then we can interpret, is it normal, is it not? Electromyographs. We stimulate muscles in the body through these horrible little electrodes that hurt like crazy. And we get readings from that. When we do EEGs, brain waves, we're looking at the electrical activity of the brain. So it stands to reason that the whole body is an energy pathway.
Right.
There's tons that we don't even know about. Right?
Yeah.
You may have heard me ask this question before. Let's see what you have to say and maybe what other people have to say.
Okay.
How many brains do we have?
2.
Ah,
Yes. One is your gut.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, your solar plexus, which lives in the gut, it involves the enteric nervous system. Enteric inside the body. It's autonomous. So what does that mean? It just means it functions automatically on its own. It doesn't need direction from anywhere else. And it functions when, where, and how it's needed to function. So if something's out of whack, it just knows that. All of those cells talk to each other, all those neurons talk to each other. And this guy way over in the corner says, hey, you over there, you need to step it up a little bit because this is not going right. So if you want to think of the abdominal brain as a mainframe computer, it's the mainframe. Most people think this brain is the frame. It is for thought and sensorium, but it's not for the rest. So the other thing that lives down in the solar plexus at the abdominal brain area is the 10th cranial nerve. 10th cranial nerve is the vagus nerve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you've been on my table when I said, oh, we got you to chill right out when I hit your vagal response.
Right.
That's the longest nerve in the body.
Mm-hmm.
It originates in the medulla oblongata of the brainstem, which is right back here in the back of your neck.
Mm-hmm.
And it terminates in the gut, and it connects the gut to the brain. So there's a constant feedback mechanism from your abdominal brain to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It splits into two main branches, and those branches split off into other little branches.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just too many of them to talk about and go over, but the terminal branch in the abdomen supplies the esophagus, the stomach, and the small and large bowel. So it has a big job down there.
Yeah.
It has a really big job. Here's another fact that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. There's a network of neurons that line the stomach. Guess how many?
Oh my goodness. Let me see if anybody on Facebook responds, because I can't even guess. Is it in the millions?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Let me see if anybody responded besides me. I'm proud of myself for guessing in the millions. We did, while we're waiting for the answer, I'm going to just pop this question in here for you to think about. Is what kind of effects can you make for issues like ADHD with reflexology? So something for you to maybe address later. Yep, somebody else just said millions, so we'll go with millions.
500 million.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. And each one of them has its own job. And each one of them talks to the other 499 million.
Wow.
Or pays attention to the input it's receiving. So when you think about those numbers and you think about the job of the gut, it's absolutely incredible. That's really where it's at in the body. Yes, the heart is very important. Yes, the lungs are important. But if you don't have the gut functioning properly, everything else is going to go kaput. So the vagus nerve then is a very important in the gut-brain axis. And guess what? It plays a huge role in stress. There's a lot of scientific evidence today that disease can arise from stress and thoughts. Now, that's not to say that if you have negative thoughts, you're going to cause yourself to have a specific disease. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But negative thoughts, feelings of hopelessness can create chronic stress. And chronic stress then upsets the body's hormone balances.
Right.
It's the brain chemicals required for happiness and damages the immune system. So even if you set aside the happiness stuff,
right,
damage the immune system, and you're going to upset hormone balance. That's huge because it needs all of the hormones functioning properly in the proper amounts to maintain homeostasis, right?
Right.
Yeah. So chronic stress can decrease your lifespan. And the issue with stress is not so much that you have stress, all kinds of stress. There's what they call eustress, which is good kind of stress. There's the negative kind of stress. There's anything that happens that's not planned for, untoward, it creates stress.
Right.
It all depends on how you perceive it and how you handle it.
Right.
If you let it live here, then it's going to be an ongoing
cause
issue.
Problems. Exactly.
Yes. So your brain, if you do negative talk and whatever, and you get on those little loops that we all get on from time to time, just remember something. Your brain does not know the truth from a lie. act on what you feed it.
Yes.
It's going to act on what it's constantly fed as a diet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's sort of a little sort of nutshell overview about reflexology, health, how it can affect your body and its function.
Mm-hmm.
It works with your body's energy pathways, and it allows them to reset back to neutral.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not trying to cure.
Right.
We're trying to allow the body to do its
To
work.
cure itself.
Yeah, I'm not doing the work. I'm the conduit.
Right.
So.
And so in terms of taking care of that gut health and making sure that that whole piece of it is working as effectively and efficiently and as well as it possibly can be, the reflexology piece of it is tied back to that through different parts of foot, hand, ear, wherever you're touching, by making that direct connection energetically through your nerve endings to keep the stress level down and make sure that everything's sort of functioning the way that it should
Right.
be functioning.
It's a check-in with your body to say, hey, how are you? How you doing?
Mm-hmm.
As we pass through areas on a client's feet that may be out of balance, out of whack, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
it gives that part of the client's body the opportunity to say, oh yeah, I need to chill. I need to get back to doing what it is I should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And not minding my buddy's business over here who has the job of whatever.
I will say it's really astounding, and I've heard Dawn talk about this, and I've experienced it personally with her, where I will go in on a particular day and she will say, she'll ask me how I'm doing. I'll say, this is going on or that's going on, and then I won't mention something else. And afterwards, she'll say to me, something's a little bit off with your digestion. And it will be, for those of you who don't know, several of the people in this group do know that I do not eat gluten, and I do react negatively to eating gluten. And there'll be times when I go in and I know I've been exposed to a little bit of gluten, and Dawn will say, your digestive system seems a little off. And so it's really fascinating to experience that and know that that's what she's working on while she's, just sort of helping my body heal itself and get back to normal, and also noting those things. And I love that it works in conjunction with other types of medicine. So as Dawn said several times, she's not healing you, but the nice thing is I have actually experienced her picking up on things where I know when I go to see her, she's going to be it's like going to another doctor, only a lot more relaxing. And fun and joyful and wonderful. So
and for the reflexologist, it's like being on a treasure hunt.
yeah. And you came to this, so just so everybody who's watching knows, you came to this from being a registered nurse. So can you talk a little bit about that journey for yourself?
Yes, I spent probably 45 years or so as an RN, and in many different specialties, critical care being the longest specialty, and then maternal and child health, basically everything except emergency nursing. And what I found when I cared for patients and families, or oversaw care that other nurses were giving, I always found that therapeutic touch really meant a lot to patients and families alike. And what do I mean by therapeutic touch? You're talking with a family, a loved one who's very upset about, grandma in the bed here who's not doing well. You just put your hand on somebody's shoulder or hold their hand or their arm while you're talking to them, and you have the empathetic and sympathetic sort of response to them, and that goes along with therapeutic touch. And I thought about that. It was time for me to retire from hospital nursing. And I thought, well, what do I want to do for a retirement career? And I kept thinking about that and thinking about that and thinking about that. And I didn't think massage was going to be the answer for me. And I was introduced to reflexology by a friend of mine who talked about it. And I thought, let me look at that. And it made perfect sense to me.
Right.
And so that's basically how that came about. A few other things I just want to sort of chat about for a moment.
Sure.
The field of psychoneuroimmunology.
Okay.
What is that? That's science of the interaction between mind and body. It studies the way the psyche profoundly interacts with the nervous system and how both of them form an essential link with immune defenses. So psychoneuroimmunology, that's a huge one. But now we're going to talk a little bit about psychoneuroimmunoendocrinology.
Okay.
Remember we talked a little bit ago about the endocrine system and the hormones and everything.
Yes.
Endocrine system is also part of our whole body response. Nothing happens in the body without all of these things dancing together.
Right.
They have their own little dance they're doing. Do we know what emotions are made up of? Because we're dancing back and forth with emotions and different sort of entities in the body. Anybody have a clue? An idea?
Let's see if anybody answers that question.
I just thought it was those things that popped in your head and then they didn't.
Yeah, I'll check in and see if anybody has an answer to what that is. I will say that with Pure Haven, we focus a lot of attention on endocrine disruptors that are found in personal care and beauty products. And so, that goes really hand in hand with making sure your endocrine system is staying super healthy.
Exactly.
So Leslie answered the question of what are emotions to with chemicals and energy.
Right on, Leslie.
Go, Leslie. Nice job.
Electrical, chemical, and hormonal discharges from the nervous system contribute to our emotions.
Fascinating.
To me, that was very fascinating because prior to that, I thought emotions were strictly came from your own thought process.
Right.
And that's, I think, what a lot of people think. But it's deeper than that. The functioning of our major organs, the integrity of our immune defense, and the working of many biological substances help govern the body's physical state through emotions, the influence of emotions. So it sort of wraps back to stress, anxiety, emotions, how the different parts of the body talk to each other. Why do they stop talking to each other? Right. When we repress our feelings and our thoughts, our psychological defenses become disoriented and confused. And in some people, these defenses go awry and destroy health instead of preserving health. Wow. So the thought processes and mental and emotional states are super hugely important to our overall well-being. The mind and body are connected in that intricate dance of maintaining equilibrium. And it is intricate. It's like
absolutely. Well,
it's just
500 million neurons. I was trying to think of what the
Oh, you were thinking of neural pathways. So remember, we are the CEOs of our bodies.
Love that.
We're the CEOs of our bodies. And
absolutely.
I really have to give a shout out to Beth and her work because it's super important for all of us, especially as we go forward. We've come, from the older generations, you know, that we didn't have all of this knowledge about the things that are in our food, the things that are in our clothing, the things that are in our environment or our atmosphere. But now that we know these things, and now that we know what they can do to health, and the fact that many of them are not healthy for our bodies, it's up to us to run our business, the business of our body properly.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
so Beth's work is super important in that.
As is yours. Tell us about Peaceful Souls.
So that's the name of my practice. I have it here in Smithfield, Rhode Island. I have a private treatment room in my home. And I do reflexology, Reiki, or Aromatouch therapy, either separately, all together, or whatever the client wishes for. And it's just a really good way of checking in with yourself, checking in with your body.
Mm-hmm.
Some people just come strictly for relaxation, and they come regularly for that. It's like a lot of people go for regular massage.
Right.
I've had clients tell me that massage is great, but they get more benefit from reflexology because what we do is to hit upon every nerve, every organ, every system.
Right.
Massage is great because it works on your muscles. And if you have more muscles and they get massaged, then you'll release the lactic acid that's built up.
Correct. Yeah.
So they're different. One's
Right.
not better than the other, but they, you know.
And I have to say, so Dawn and I met at networking, and I had never had reflexology. I was fascinated and interested and wanted to learn more, and also wanted to try it. And I've told you my wonderful testimonial about how it has helped me. And you know that my thing with my hips is just one little issue, but Dawn has definitely touched on other things. And you know, I've felt so much less stress when I've left her office, beautiful home office, studio space. And but I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm going for a foot massage," or "I'm going to have my feet rubbed," and I always sort of cringe and think, "No, you're really tending to self-care and, you know, taking care of the different systems in your body, and having her exactly help you help yourself repair what's going on." But much like with what we do with Pure Haven, I always think I'm getting these products into people's homes, and they're amazing, and I know what they're doing for their bodies. So if they're just going to say, "Ooh, I love the shampoo because it makes my hair feel nice," and not realizing that they're getting rid of all these toxic chemicals, does it really matter whether they know or not that they're doing something great for themselves? Except that I feel like one of the important things is to sort of share that message with other people.
Right. Yeah.
And so letting, you know, having your clients understand what is going on really.
Right.
Is
And if anyone wants more information or wants to read it again separately, go to my website, soulsreflexology.com.
Awesome. I will.
And there's all kinds of the questions and answers. What is it? What doesn't it do? It tons of information there.
And we will link that in the comments. Right now we are streaming live to Welcome Wellness, which is our testimonial forum for my team. And our customers are in there to learn more. And the other cool thing is that all of the consultants can take this because it's a public group. Please feel free to take this and share this with others, but please also make sure you link Dawn's website so people can really learn a little bit more about reflexology. I didn't see any other questions that came up. The only question that I had come up, and I'll keep looking, but was the one on ADHD. Have you had any experience with that particular thing?
I haven't, but I've been thinking about that since you mentioned it. And I really think that the way we approach the nervous system can have a huge effect. This is like, I'm not saying for absolute sure because I haven't had a client with it. I haven't like really worked with it yet, but the nervous system is implicit and complicit in a lot of things that go on with us in our bodies, our emotions, our activity. And so with somebody with the hyperactivity disorder, it makes sense to me that as we do reflexology and we work on the nervous system and we work on the endocrine system, that it will have some calming effect.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be my immediate guess as well. It would be interesting to see. And so I shared a little bit about some things that some experiences I've had. And Dawn, I know that you have a reflexologist that you go to, or you probably swap practice with others, but I remember you coming in after having reflexology one day and talking about, I think it was your knee, wasn't it? Or
Yes, it was. So I came into one of our networking meetings and I just could not give a testimonial to my reflexologist. I needed a knee replacement, which happened 4 weeks ago, by the way. But at the time, I got out of bed that morning and I was to be at her house for a different meeting at 10 o'clock. And I couldn't walk. I literally could not walk. I had the worst pain I've ever had in my life. And I called her and I said, can you please get me onto your table like an hour and a half before we're supposed to meet with the webmaster? So I went down there and I knew that the worst thing that could happen was that I'd be really relaxed and I'd have some pain relief.
right.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
What I did not expect to happen is when I got off of that table and I stood up, I had absolutely no pain whatsoever. And it lasted for 48 hours. And as I look back on that, the really amazing thing about it was not only did I not have pain, it didn't make a whole lot of sense because the tibia in my lower leg was what was causing all the pain and it kept displacing.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, holy mackerel. I got off of that table and it was huge. So I went back several more times.
Of course. Yeah.
As I was waiting, and now everything's taken care of.
That's awesome. And congratulations on the knee replacement.
Yeah.
That must be life-changing. But yeah, it's nice to have that. I've got to say, I had been really struggling with so much pain and I would have a hard time falling asleep at night and toss and turn, trying to get comfortable on my hip, and just really a world of difference. So, and maybe someday I will have to go through hip replacement, but so far so good. You've done the trick for now.
Give me a hug. You're back in the schedule.
Yes. So Dawn is scheduling for September, and I don't know if, are you taking new clients right now? Awesome. And highly recommend for those of you in Rhode Island to go see Dawn. For those of you not in Rhode Island, I am sad that you don't get her as a reflexologist, but I hope this has sort of opened your eyes to this modality, taught you a little bit, answered some questions for you about what reflexology is and how it works, and some other really cool things about our bodies that it's so funny. I think sometimes we think science is static. Science answers questions, and once that question is answered, that's it. Like, we know the answer, and it's so untrue. When we didn't know all of this about gut health 15, 20 years ago, we had no clue. We also, at one point, all thought the earth was flat. So science changes. There's advances in science. And so learning, I think I'm very happy that Western medicine is starting to acknowledge and accept some of these things that years ago were sort of thought of as woo-woo
Right.
not real,
Exactly.
because it works. And, it doesn't matter for them why it works as long as it works. And it's wonderful that it does. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for being our very first
Oh, my pleasure.
guest.
I do want to say one other thing. For those
Sure.
who may not live in the area and want to find a reflexologist in Connecticut or Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
Southern Rhode Island, go on to Reflexology Association of Rhode Island website, and there's a list of reflexologists by town in Rhode Island and by state for Connecticut or Massachusetts.
Wonderful. So Reflexology Association of Rhode Island.
Correct.
Great. So I am going to, again, link your website in the comments, and I will also put that in the comments for anybody looking. Thank you so much. Have a great night. We really appreciate you educating us, and we will be doing a little bit about Pure Haven products next week, and then we have another special guest speaker the week after that. So we're going to keep going with this sort of new way of educating you on different wellness issues. And we appreciate you being with us, Dawn. You were wonderful to have on.
I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for joining
Bye,
us.
everybody.
Bye.